Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan. And the topic of this 10-minute moan is Douglas Ross and his reaction to the election being called, going by his column in today's Express. So the headline is, "It's time to hammer the final nail into SNP's coffin and get rid of divisive nationalism once and for all." This is the exact thing I've been saying for months. We can do this by voting clever. Now, once I read this out, I'll give my opinion at the end of it, but listen to what he's saying. And it's like Douglas Ross saying tactical vote without saying tactically vote, right? Someone in his position, Tory leader, will know fine well there's areas in Scotland where his party have got no chance of winning. But what he is saying is, if people are clever in other areas, in certain areas up and down the country, could do a lot of damage to the SNP. So, his column, speaking exclusively to the Scottish Daily Express, Scottish Conservative leader Douglas Ross says it's time to kick John Swinney and co out of office and let Scotland flourish. The SNP's date with destiny could soon be coming, and there's sweet irony that it could fall on July the 4th. Made famous as Independence Day, for more than a decade, Scotland has been stuck in the grip of divisive nationalism, unable to move forward. On the same day I was first elected as a councillor, so too was the SNP government. They have had 17 years in power, and at the same time nearly everything they've touched has got worse. Our schools have tumbled down international rankings and deemed worse than those in Slovakia, Latvia and Estonia. Our NHS continues to struggle with the worst waiting times in history, more than 800,000 waiting for treatment. Violent crime is on the rise, police numbers have fallen, key infrastructure projects like the A9 and the ferries have been delayed and costs have ballooned, and they have forced Scottish families to pay more tax. Every SNP leader has failed. After we recently got rid of Humza Yousaf, they turned in John Swinney to try to reset. But he's just more of the same. His hands are all over the worst failures, from the named person to examined scandals. He was Alex Salmond's finance chief. He was Nicola Sturgeon's deputy first minister. He supported Humza Yousaf at every turn. He's been around the SNP cabinet for almost the entire time they've been in government. John Swinney will always put party before country, as he demonstrated by shamefully defending his disgraced friend Michael Matheson over his Roman charges scandal. For him, this election is about one thing. He will put independence on page 1, line 1 of the SNP manifesto. He'll claim every seat in the SNP win as a mandate to split the UK. He will also do everything he possibly can to deliver independence. We need to make sure he fails, to take the golden chance to finish the story that started more than a decade ago, when the SNP began a relentless push to break up the union. Scotland has changed. The public are fed up at breaking point, tired of nationalist failure, excuses and wasted opportunities. For the first time in 17 years, there's a real chance to beat the SNP. 100% agree with you there, Douglas. 3 years ago, I promised voting Scottish Conservative would stop Nicola Sturgeon from winning a majority. We achieved that. Now she's gone, I promised we'd be in a strong position. Together, we removed Humza from office. Now I promise you that if you back the Conservatives together, we can unseat SNP MPs up and down Scotland. We can inflict once-in-a-generation defeat on the SNP. But we can't get complacent. The SNP are down but not out. We know every die-hard nationalist will turn out and the SNP will rally their troops. There's always a risk of an SNP candidate sneaking a win. We need to hammer the nail all the way in, close the debate on independence for good. We can deliver a fatal blow to this SNP government and end an era of divisive nationalist rule, from Salmond to Sturgeon to Swinney. The general election in Scotland is about beating the SNP, so we can focus on things that matter, such as cutting taxes, reducing waiting lists and investing in schools. In key seats, this is about, you need to listen to them, in key seats, it's not expecting to win this election. It's a straight fight between SNP and Scottish Conservatives. There are many constituencies where no other party can credibly challenge SNP. Labour and Lib Dems are just too far behind. A vote for any other party will risk the SNP getting in. Now listen to what he's saying here carefully. He's not talking about going out and voting Tory all over. He's talking about key seats. And he's right. There are key seats that if the traditional Labour or Lib Dem vote for their normal party, Tories might not win. The SNP would. Whereas if people who want to get rid of the SNP, if that's high up, if not their key priority, like mine when I go to the polling booth, then they must tactically vote. And in certain areas, one's up in the outskirts of Aberdeen and one's down the borders, the the Tories have got the best chance of beating them. They could probably take 6 or 7 seats, which would make a big dent in the SNP. But only if those who would traditionally vote Labour or Lib Dem in those areas, in those key seats, go out and vote for the Tories. And if you've got a problem with that, I'd understand. But that's what I'll be doing. I'll be voting for a party that I would not normally vote for, because I'm normally a floating voter. I don't have any party allegiances, so it's easy for me. And I get it that people might trouble their conscience. But if you don't do it, and you wake up in the morning and the party you voted for was third, and Tories weren't that far behind the SNP, the SNP get in, and you've got another 5 years of grief because your MP will be an SNP one. And if I was a Labour voter and I actually could consider, would I prefer an SNP or Labour MP if I'm not going to have an SNP or Tory MP if I'm not going to have a Labour MP, then that's where your decision's got to be made. And it will be tough, but I could do it in a heartbeat because I'm a floating voter. So he's not saying here, let's go and win the majority of seats for Tory. He's not that stupid. But what he is saying is, in key seats up and down the country, a lot of them up the north of the map and a lot on the border, the Labour Party are not going to win these seats. Liberal Dems are not going to win these seats. It will be SNP and Tory taking the first and second place. So all you can help with is decide, as a voter, what one of they two, because they're the only two that's going to win in certain seats, probably about half a dozen. You want a Tory or you want SNP? Because you ain't getting Labour and you ain't getting Lib Dem. You just don't have enough voters in half a dozen or so seats. And that's what he's saying. He cannot, as a leader of the Conservative Party, go up and advocate tactical voting. It just couldn't harm. It'd be ridiculous. Political suicide. But what he is saying is, see these seats where we can beat them, let's go for it. Okay? And that's what he's saying with this piece. And I would imagine if you've got Anas Sarwar in a private discussion, he'd say the same. He would be telling folk in those half a dozen seats, we ain't going to win. And likewise, you get the spin of that, in a lot of seats where Tory can't win, you would have Douglas Ross privately admitting, go vote Labour, or go vote Lib Dem. Lib Dems could probably win 5 or 6 seats as well. There's 12. Anyway, this is the last paragraph. We know in those key seats it will be close between Nationalists and my party, but the Scottish Conservatives are up for this fight. We're ready to beat the SNP up and down Scotland. This is our chance. We have the opportunity to end the SNP's obsession with independence for good and finally move forward together as one united country. The power will soon be in your hands, and I know you will vote wisely to give the SNP the kicking they have deserved for a decade. Can't disagree with much of that for Douglas Ross, and I ain't no Tory. Right? So, there we go. We've read it without reading it, that what he's saying, and you can read between the lines quite easily. Douglas Ross is saying tactically vote without saying tactically vote. And for that, I doff my cap. I am quite sure we will see similar from Anas Sarwar and Alex Hamilton. Sorry, I forgot his name here. Terrible. Lib Dem leader. They will all tell you privately the same thing. Because the three of them all want to get rid of this horrific leaders that we have in Scotland, and this, getting rid of them at the Westminster for the majority of Scottish seats, will be a right good start. Then we repeat it when the Holyrood election comes, and we can bury them forever. So if you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up, please. If you've not already done so, please consider subscribing. But most importantly of all, as long as you're not John Swinney, any of his predecessors, or any of the ever-decreasing but dangerous cult they have following him. Everyone else, have a great day. Cheery bye now.